All right, so Jake Paul defeats Tyron Woodley via split decision on Showtime's Sunday night boxing pay-per-view extravaganza. I'm here to share some thoughts about the fight itself and also just to kind of share some opinions about the event overall. But before I do, my name is Rahul J. Chan. This is the Battle Camp. Thank you very much for joining me. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All right, so going into the fight, maybe about, say, 2-3 weeks ago, I felt as though Tyron Woodley would beat Jake Paul. I felt like Tyron Woodley is too experienced in combat sport for someone like Jake Paul, someone who's only been training for 2 or 3 years, give or take, and someone that's only had 3 or 4 fights or whatever it is. And I also felt as though Tyron Woodley is too big of a step up in terms of levels of competition, going from Ben Askren to Tyron Woodley. I felt as though that would be a step too far for Jake Paul. That opinion that I held changed come fight week, because I heard Tyron Woodley in an interview with Ara Helwani, and after I heard what Tyron Woodley had to say, his own analysis of his own, the end of his own MMA career and the adjustments he's made in fight camp for Jake Paul, I felt as though Tyron Woodley is in trouble here. And I'll kind of touch on that a bit later, because I just want to talk about the fight itself first. So, look, you don't have to be a boxing connoisseur. You don't have to be a boxing scientist. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be Teddy Atlas to be able to analyze what we saw on fight night. First and foremost, I feel as though Jake Paul won that fight, and I don't really think it was very close. And the reason why I feel Jake Paul won that fight is because Jake Paul's game plan, it seemed, was to use a lot of movement and try and keep Tyron Woodley at the end of his jab, to not allow Tyron Woodley to close the distance, so he can come on the inside and land his power shots. Tyron Woodley chose to follow Jake Paul around the ring, because I don't feel as though he has the kind of the boxing or the ring IQ to cut off the ring, as a lot of kind of commentators were saying. He wasn't really cutting off the ring effectively. He wasn't closing distance effectively, and he wasn't active enough. He wasn't throwing enough shots. So Jake Paul could probably sense that he was winning these rounds. So the onus throughout the fight was on Tyron Woodley to change something, to be more aggressive, to be more assertive, to try and throw more shots, to at least give Jake Paul something to think about. In fact, even in the 4th round, when he rocked Jake Paul, he started to kind of do this thing where he was winding his right hand up in the air. And I felt to myself, why aren't you just closing the distance and throwing and trying to get him out of there? Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I've got no issue with the result. I felt Jake Paul won that fight. I can't remember whether I thought it was 5 rounds to 2 or what I specifically thought I saw, because if I'm totally honest with you guys, I spent the weekend away. On Sunday I got home and I was proper drunk. And I kind of half watched this fight whilst I was drunk, and something dawned on me while I was watching this fight, and I'll tell you guys about this next. But then I fell asleep, and then I kind of woke up Monday morning, half hungover, half drunk, to kind of watch it again. And what dawned on me whilst I was watching this fight is, look, I by no means call myself a hardcore boxing fan. But I am a very, very keen, interested casual, in the sense that anytime there's a pay-per-view, I buy it. And if I haven't bought it, it's because I've gone to a friend's house or to the pub to watch it. Like, there's not a boxing event that goes by that I miss. Do you know what I mean? And watching these two guys fight each other at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning on a Sunday night, while I've literally spent a whole weekend just full of alcohol and I should be asleep, it dawned on me that you've just spent 20 quid to watch, Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley box. I'll repeat that. You just spent 20 quid to watch these two guys box. And it's a sport that neither of these guys are good enough to win a British area level title in. You know, they might win an area level title, but they're not good enough to win the British title. Do you know what I mean? So these guys are basically skill-wise, they're domestic level fighters over here in the UK and domestic level fighters in the States. And they're headlining a pay-per-view that they built off internet kind of back and forth beef, whatever you want to call it. And I'm here interested, and I genuinely was interested to see what happens here, because I kind of explained in the beginning of the video, because I felt as though Tyron Woodley was just a step too far for Jake Paul at this stage of his development. And yeah, it dawned on me that this is a boring fight. If you're used to watching high level fights at the top end of the sport, you're used to watching the best guys in the world fight each other for actual world titles, then you're gonna watch these two fight, and it's just it just felt a bit sloppy. It just felt a bit of a mess. And I feel like that's the moment I kind of checked out of this alternate universe that has now developed in the world of boxing, where people that aren't actually boxers fight each other. Do you know what I mean? And I understand there's always going to be an audience for the Jake Pauls of this world, because they've got an audience who are invested in them as human beings, as entertainers, as personalities, people that follow their vlogs and YouTube channels and whatnot. And these guys are interested and excited to see someone that they follow and support box people. But I think Sunday night was the day that I tap out. I just checked out. I felt like, look, I mean, this just isn't. I don't care enough about the people involved for me to sit and watch a fight that I don't find entertaining, because it just isn't a good enough quality. Do you know what I mean? Like, why am I paying to watch myself to watch? Why am I paying to get bored? That's my biggest takeaway from all of this. But this isn't just to hate on Jake Paul. Like, I've got no hate towards them. Like, I made videos in the past saying that fair play to them. If they've got enough of if they're enough of a draw to to convince the paying public to pay for their events in the sport of boxing, then more power to them. And I'm one of them. Like, I've paid now to watch Jake Paul box. Do you know what I mean? And looking at that arena in Cleveland, it looked like if it wasn't sold out, it was very close to being sold out. And I'm not used to seeing American boxing events with that kind of an audience, unless Canelo's fighting. Do you know what I mean? So you have to give credit where it's due. But yeah, just the event, the fight itself, I just wasn't really for me. Going back to Tyron Woodley quickly, where I kind of spoke about how I felt as though where I kind of started worrying for him in his pre-fight interview with Ara Hawani on the MMA Hour. I'm not sure whether he came on Monday or Wednesday on that show, but I listened to his interview, and I've always felt as though Tyron Woodley, without sounding insulting, is a little bit delusional. He's got delusions of grandeur in terms of his own perception of his own ability, his own career, etc. And I started feeling concerned for him when he started talking about how he lost focus in the end of his MMA career. And with that loss of focus, he started focusing more on kind of jewelry and cars and going out and stuff, and that took away from the focus he should have been or the time he should have been focusing on the sport in the gym, etc., which took away from his performances in the octagon. Whenever Tyron Woodley leading into a fight, he sounds like the most confident man in the world. But when you've seen him lose 4 times on the trot, I think it was, in the UFC, and every time he comes back talking about how it's always usually the same story, basically talking about how he's now more focused, he was training wrong, now he's got a better way of training, he's got a better way of doing it, etc., etc., etc. It was like a broken record. I'd heard it all before. And what I really wanted to hear him is address the mental kind of block that he's got with the fact that he's just not able to pull the trigger the way he used to be able to. He's not able to The thing with Tyron Woodley is, towards the end of his career as a mixed martial artist, it felt like he convinced himself to wait for the perfect opportunity to land a strike, rather than create half an opportunity for himself to land, which is what he did previously. And because he was so explosive and had so much power, when he went on that half opportunity, he was able to hurt his opponent and win fights, which is how he became the welterweight champion of the world. But maybe that's something he has worked on, and just because he didn't talk about it, it doesn't mean that it's not something that he's trying to address. But because I'd heard the same kind of sentiment, the same kind of themes, him talk about the same kind of themes prior to fights before, then I'd seen him go into the octagon and fight completely the opposite way to what he'd kind of spoken about prior. I kind of saw a negative result coming for Tyron Woodley after I heard that pre-fight interview. Jake Paul as an individual, I'm just going to say random things that I picked up during the week because I didn't make any pre-fight kind of videos. Jake Paul isn't a very good talker. Like, I did listen to that face-to-face thing that they did with Ariel Helwani, and Jake Paul, I mean, Ariel Helwani's right. That was a 10-8 for Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley ran rings around him verbally, at least anyway. Jake Paul on the spot, he's a man of gimmicks. Like, he's good at doing gimmicks and posts on the internet, or pre-planned pranks. But just literally sat there in front of him, man to man, in front of each other. He just kind of didn't know what to say, and he's not very witty with it. Do you know what I mean? So if I was in Jake Paul's team, I'd be kind of encouraging him to do less of that kind of thing. Tyron Woodley seems to think that there's a lot of hunger out there for a rematch. Again, I think that's his delusions talking again, because I don't know if anyone actually really wants to see these two box again. I sure as hell don't. I found it quite funny that Tyron Woodley kind of going into the fight was talking about him being a Disney kid, a YouTuber, etc. And coming out of the fight, he's talking about, I just need to make a few adjustments and I'll be able to beat him. And it's just a bit kind of like it's kind of, why are we talking about this like it's an actual high level boxing match now? Do you know what I mean? It's just all muddled up for me, because is it a gimmick? Is it like a gimmick, a YouTuber against an MMA fighter, or is this an actual, like, are you guys trying to be actual boxers at this point? Because nobody cares. Nobody thinks that anyone here is going to achieve anything on the world stage. And I don't know, man. I don't think there is an appetite for it. I have to say, there was the matchmaking in terms of picking Tyron Woodley as an opponent. It was spot on. I feel as though I kind of, in my head, gave Tyron Woodley too much credit for what he's achieved in MMA. Whoever decided that Tyron Woodley would be a good opponent for Jake Paul at this stage was absolutely correct. Just because of the size advantage that Jake Paul had and the gun shyness of Tyron Woodley. So fair play to you lot. I was wrong on that count. Tommy Fury. I think Tommy Fury would be a decent fight for both Jake Paul and for Tommy Fury. I don't know what the appetite for that is at this stage. I don't know whether Tommy Fury is a big enough name in the States. Steven Espinoza said in an interview with, I think it was Boxing Social, he said that they need to see what the numbers are in the UK to see whether Tommy Fury is the next opponent. Time will tell, man. But overall, fair play to Jake Paul. Final kind of observation I want to add is I find this incredibly funny. Like, I was telling my mates about all of this in a I was telling one of my mates about this in our WhatsApp group, because there's this guy, and the reason why I'm kind of stuttering like this is because I'm trying to find what his handle is on Twitter, what his Twitter name is. Give me 2 seconds, because I copied it into the group, but my mates talk too much in here. Here it is. Okay, so there's this guy on Twitter, and his name is Really Nice Derek, and after major events, he always tweets out fake numbers and fake facts about a fight. So he's done it previously with Tommy Fury, and talking about how Tommy Fury pulled in 1.9 million viewers for a boxing match that he had on BT Sport, and that tweet Tyson Fury retweeted or whatever, and he said massive congratulations to Tommy Fury. Anyway, the reason why I'm saying all of this is because you might have seen a load of people tweet about how Jake Paul gave up 1 million of his purse from Sunday night to the rest of the undercard, like he gave Serrano 500,000, things of that nature. And yeah, that's all lies. These are all just numbers that this Really Nice Derek has made up. And I just find it fascinating how so many people on Twitter have tweeted about this. Even people like Ellie Sekback, who's a prominent kind of YouTuber in the boxing space, because I don't know whether he could be classified as a journalist. But yeah, he's tweeted about it and all sorts. And you should, like, what I'll do is while I'm talking about it, I'll put the slide up on the YouTube so you can see what I'm kind of referring to. But if you look at it, they've even got, one of the best things about all of this is they've got all of the fighters, what country they're from. But Tyron Woodley, they've got him down as UFC. Like, you know, the little things like that. And I'm pretty sure this is quite easily verifiable. But the guy just sends out a tweet, and there's so many people that are actual kind of journalists in boxing, and just people who are verified on Twitter, that have all retweeted this information. And I find it absolutely fascinating. But anyway, yeah, apologies for the lack of videos last week. I just had quite a busy week, man. I went into the office I wanted to make a video in the office on Thursday, but I was surprise busy working. And then I went off to Newcastle on a friend's stag on Friday. And I came home Sunday, and I don't know why we decided to do this, but we got to King's Cross Station and we had a few drinks at King's Cross. And when I say a few, I think we was drinking from about 5 till about midnight, 12:30 or something like that, until the place closed. So I was literally Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was just getting drunk, really. And also, to, you know, add insult to injury, Arsenal have been depressing me of late. So thank you to all of you guys who have been DMing me on Instagram and stuff about Arsenal taking the piss. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And that's kind of why I'm doing one of these old school audio only videos, to be honest, because usually I am, you know, obviously if you're familiar with the channel, you'll know that I record myself talking, but I just couldn't be asked to shift furniture around my bedroom to record this video. But I did wanna get my opinions out, you know, because this week we got a big kind of UFC Fight Night card with a lot of UK interest that I want to talk about. So I thought, you know what, let's just record this audio only old school type video with regards to this particular fight, and then we can go back to our winning formula where I show my face and whatnot later on in the week. But anyway, that's enough about me. Feel free to put your comments below, what you think about what I've said, your own opinions about the main event, your own opinions about the event in general. And yeah, I will respond to reasonable comments. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Please feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff, man. Just do it. I'll catch you guys next time.